friends, it's Deanna here today, and today I am super excited to bring you this super cute pattern. It's the elevated blazer jacket. This is super fun to sew, but it also turns out super cool. Like, you can dress outfits up with this blazer, you can dress them down with some jeans. I love it. So we're gonna get started and I'm excited, so let's do it. Alright, so we're going to start with our back, and I'm using this gorgeous plaid fabric. I think this is going to be super cute. I think like with a black dress, like I'm wearing right now, you could dress it up, or with like jeans, you can wear like a cute top and some cute jeans, or the paper bag pants. This is going to be such a good staple for my closet. I'm excited. This is a fabric, I think it's jacquard. It's a fabric that's got it's stable, but it's still a knit, so there's still stretch, but it's a very stable fabric. If you want recommendations on fabrics for this pattern, we do have that in our, if you check out the tutorial, the instructions on our pattern, there is a place where it tells you a recommendation of different fabrics. Also, if you come follow us on Facebook, we have an album where all our testers will post pictures of their makes, and they will tell you what fabric they used. So that's a really great resource if you were wondering about fabrics and such. So you can see what they fit like and what they look like with the different fabrics they used. So we're gonna start, like I said, with the back, and we're gonna create these darts. Now, the really cool thing about creating darts is that it brings the back in, so you still have the shape of your shoulders, because usually our waist, we go in a little bit, and our back usually goes, if you're standing straight, your back kind of goes in a little bit. So you wanna make sure that a fitted jacket is going to fit correctly. So that's what these darts are for. So that's why it's important to put in these little details in there. So I'm going to place, I cut out the little area where my dart is. I'm gonna place it right over the back of my pattern. This is the wrong side of my pattern. And I'm using a water soluble marker. You can use chalk, you can use any kind of water, something that's going to be going away with water, or there's just all kinds of marking pens out there nowadays. Or you can just, if you don't want to mark it, you can just use pins and mark it with pins, or however you want to. But I'm just basically marking where my dart is going to go, and that's going to go on both sides. So it's like a mirrored. So I marked it on one side. I'm going to move my jacket over, and I'm going to place my pattern piece over on the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing. Alright, so now that we have our mark, we're going to pick that up, and we're basically going to fold it right at the half, like where my points end. What I like to do is, this is my one side, I like to poke my needle, my pin, through one line, right where the line is, and then come out where the line is on the back. So that way I'm going to turn right over that line, so I'm right on the line, and I'm going to come out the other side. Ooh, go in right on the line and come out on my line. So that way I'm pinning that down directly. Now on the middle point, right here where the middle point is, I want to poke in and out right here on the back, and then come back straight, so I know exactly where my middle point is. And then I'm going to put another pin right here closer to the other side. Here's my line, so that they match up correctly. So then we're going to go to our sewing machine. I'm going to start right here at the middle. I'm going to do a back stitch, and I'm going to go straight stitch down. As I'm getting closer to the edge, I'm going to take my stitch and make it a smaller stitch so it's tighter, and then I'm going to go right off the edge where my dart ends. I do not want to back stitch right here, because a lot of times when you do back stitch right here, it'll give you like a little plucker, and we don't want that. So we're just gonna sew right off the edge, and then we'll do like a little knot, like a tight knot. Don't tighten it, just a little knot so that it doesn't come apart. A couple knots, and then I'm gonna come back to the middle, and then go down the other way and do the exact same thing. Back stitch right here at the middle and go all the way down. And we're gonna do that for both darts. All right, so now that those are done, look how cool that looks. We're going to make sure that I'm trimming all these little threads These are the ones I backstitched back and forth so I can trim them, but make sure that you do stabilize them some way, like back and forth. So if you don't want to do that, you can tie knots or whatever, and then you want to make sure that you tie knots on the ends, all 4 of them, so that they're not going to come apart on you like from the wash and such. Don't tie them tight because you don't want a plucker on your jacket. All right, once that's done, we're going to steam these to help them lay nice and flat. I'm going towards the outer, and then I'm gonna steam going back towards the inside. And look at how cool that is on the back. And actually, I'm so proud of myself. My lines still look really good and everything. So I'm gonna set the front aside. And I'm gonna grab, that was the back, sorry. And I'm gonna grab my front. Now, I am making the, like the petal look. So I have like the rounded edge. And as per my preference, I don't love adding pockets to this version myself for what the look I'm going for. I love the pockets, and I kind of wish I would have, next time I'm gonna make the straight edge because I think they look super cute on the straight edge. I think they look super cute on the rounded edge as well, but this is not the look I'm going for on this blazer, this particular one. So I'm going to omit the pockets, and I'm gonna show you just how easy it is to do. Now, I'm also gonna show you what I did with my pattern piece. I just kind of cut a little bit and folded it down to make that rounded, but I kept the piece on there, so that way I'll just put a little bit of tape right here when I'm cutting my straight edge version, which I will be making next. Now for pocket, I like to kind of cut the bottom of the pocket area and kind of pull it up from when I'm gonna position the pocket, because then I can see exactly, well, it goes this way because this is the piece. I can see exactly where it's supposed to go, and I can either mark the fabric or put a pin, like I'll put a pin right here and I'll know that that's where my pocket is supposed to be. So that's what I like to do to place my pocket. All right, so now for our pockets, we would go ahead and put the interfacing on there, and then we will fold down all the edges 3/8 of an inch all the way around and top stitch to create this little pocket front. So all the way around all the sides and top stitch. And then for our pocket flap, we would grab the outer and the liner, and we're gonna place them together. And we're going to sew around the whole thing, leaving a little gap where we're going to flip it around. We'll flip it, and then we'll tuck that in and top stitch it all the way around. Now for the pocket, actually, you do not have to top stitch yet, because once you can just top stitch. What I would do, well, what you're supposed to do is just top stitch that top line, because when you go to attach it to your bodice, you're going to top stitch the sides and the bottom piece. But obviously you're not gonna top stitch that top piece, because that's where, you know, that's where you're going to put your hand through. So let's go do that. So I forgot to say that actually the top gets folded a 1/2 inch. The sides get folded 3/8 of an inch. The top gets folded 1/2 inch. All right, so my pocket is ready to be placed on. Okay, it's gonna go top stitched on, and then my pocket flap, I'm going to cut the seam allowance and trim that for the bulk. And then right where I left that gap, I'm going to turn it around. And that little flap right there, I'm gonna tuck it in. I'm gonna give it a good steam. And you wanna use something to poke out those corners so they're nice and straight. You didn't ask for this, but how cute would that be as a bow tie? This fabric, that would be super cute. Then I would make another one just like it, but just like a tiny bit shorter, and put it right on top, so it's like you have 2 of them. I can't, this is just an example. Again, you didn't ask for this information, but I'm giving it to you anyway. And then it would be like a cute bow tie. Anyway, okay, so let's move on. So now I'm gonna go over to my machine and I'm going to sew around the top and the sides because the other piece of the flap will get top stitched down, okay? At the same time, I could grab my pattern piece and mark where my pocket is going to go. So I just place the pattern piece on top and figure out where it's supposed to go. And I could go ahead and prep it. Pin it and get it ready to stitch on. And all we'd have to do, fold those where you created those creases, and we will top stitch starting at the edge. You can make a little like triangle right here or a back and forth tack right here and go down, over, up, and tack back down. And then for the top, you already top stitched all the way around. Now we just have to place our pocket top right on top and top stitch it down so that it's a flap that opens and you can stick your hand in there and that's your pocket. And actually I think I top stitched the wrong edge of my pocket. So because look at how that's how it's supposed to fit. So the pocket and the flap needs to fit together. So let this be a lesson to you that when you go to sew that top flap, make sure you take your pocket marking with you and you know exactly which one is the top because the pocket is not a square. See Bo's right here. I don't know if you can see him, but he's trying to figure out what I'm doing. All right, so so I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I'm not working on the pocket, so we're gonna move on to the next step. Alrighty, our next step is to grab our back. I'm gonna put it face up on my mat, and then I'm gonna grab my front. I'm gonna put it face down on top at the shoulders, and we're gonna sew those shoulders together. Now remember to match up where the arm size are, and this is the front piece. And we're going to sew those shoulders with your preferred stretch stitch. I don't have all my clips over here, so I'm just gonna do it one little clip. I'm gonna go over there and sew them. I'm going to use my serger for that. You can use a stretch stitch on your sewing machine, whatever kind of stretch stitch you're most comfortable with. Then I'm gonna grab my collar piece. I'm gonna grab one of them and I'm going to put some interfacing on it. You do want to use some interfacing on these pieces because the color, you want it to stand nice and look good, and interfacing will help with that, to like stand up nice and sharp. All right, then I'm going to turn it and I'm going to grab my other color and I'm going to place it right on top. Right sides together. And I'm going to sew starting at this flat edge on the corner and go up and around the top edge and then turn right here at the top of the collar. So it's these two edges and the top right here. Don't worry about the bottom or the sides yet. It's just that. And you're also going to sew that, you're going to sew that with your preferred stretch stitch. All right, once those sides are sewn, we're going to turn it right side out and we're going to give it a good press. And then I'm gonna head over and top stitch along the edge that we just sewed up. All right, we're gonna grab our collar and I'm going to find my center of my collar, and I like to mark it with a little snip. And we're going to grab our back, and I'm also going to find the center of our bodice by grabbing the shoulders and going to the center and finding that. And then we're going to lay it out on our mat or whatever you're working with. Let me trim these threads. All right, so we start by matching that half right there. And we're going, basically it's gonna go where it turns the curve. That's like where our collar has like the little flap, and match them together. And I'm gonna do the same on the other side first. And then I'm gonna go over to the front, and if you look at your pattern piece, there is, face it correctly, which way am I holding this pattern piece? The arm side, this is my front, this way. Okay, and if you look at your pattern piece, there's a little mark right here, guide on your pattern piece, and that's where it's going to end. So you can go ahead and kind of place that, your finger right on it, or mark it with a pen. I don't have a pen right here in front of me, but that's where you're gonna grab this piece, and it's gonna turn, and that's where it's gonna end. So you'll have that little lip at the end over there. And you're gonna do that for both sides, and then we're gonna head over to the sewing machine and baste it on. A basting stitch is really just the longest straight stitch on your sewing machine. I'm doing this basting stitch at a size 5. Now when I get here to the corner, sometimes you can just put a pin right here to hold the fabric right there so it doesn't go down on you. But I'm gonna go straight up to that corner. I'm gonna keep my needle down, I'm gonna lift up my foot, and I'm gonna turn over to go the other way. I'm gonna do the same thing when I get to this corner. All right, now we're going to add our interfacing to our facing. So we've got the facing, this is the back facing, and I'm attaching the interfacing to that, and I'm also going to attach the interfacing to the front facing. My scissors just, they have the little spring, and the spring is broken, and they just flipped open, and I almost lost it just now. All right, now we're gonna grab our back facing, we're gonna place it face up on our board, and we're gonna grab our front facing, and we're gonna match those shoulders. Shoulder seams. Now remember, this is the front, and see how the flap goes down? This is around the edge, so make sure that you place them the right way. The straight edge is the side, so don't place that on the wrong side. And then we're gonna go and sew them together at the shoulders. While I'm here at my serger, I'm going to finish the outer edges just to give it a finished look. All right, now we're going to attach the facing to our bodice. I'm gonna open my bodice and face it right side up, right side out, right side up. And here's my collar right here. That's going to be sandwiched between my facing and my bodice. So here's my bodice right side up, here's my collar, and I'm gonna grab my facing, and I'm going to place my facing right on to my, like on top of my collar, where I'm sandwiching them together, okay? Now, you're gonna find first the half of your collar, but you might have to stretch the collar just a little bit to fit, because the shoulder seams have to match up with the shoulder seams of your bodice. So I'm gonna match up that middle piece, and then now I'm going to stretch it to my seams. Now this is why you use knit interfacing, so you can do this. If you're using like a woven interfacing, it will not let you stretch. You are using a stretch fabric, so that can stretch a little bit. All right, and then now we're gonna keep going all the way down. We have this turn right here, so remember, keep that in mind where the turn is. So when you're sewing, you're gonna pivot around where the turn, where it took a turn, like we did earlier. And then we're going to go, and right there, I'm actually going to put a pin to remind me where the turn is. Now we're going to be sewing this with a stretch stitch. You can do it on a serger. I'm not sure what I wanna do, because the only thing is, you're going to have a little bit of bulk right here at the corners and stuff like that, and you may want to trim the seam allowance a little bit down so it gives you a really sharp color. Okay, so once we do that, as you can see right here, kind of turn the corner, we're gonna go all the way down the front, attaching that. So you may want to trim it, and obviously if you do a serger, you really can't trim, because then you would be cutting the thread. So you can do a stretch stitch on your sewing machine that would keep a better shape, and you can trim it. So I'm thinking of maybe doing like a triple stitch on my sewing machine. I do like that stitch. It just takes a little bit longer. And I might do that stitch for, like, let's say the collar, and then maybe finish with my serger the rest of it. I'm not quite sure yet. Tell me in the comments below what you're going to be doing. What do you think you want to do? You think you're just gonna be like, whatever, it doesn't matter, we'll just do a serger the whole way around and you'll be fine if it's a little bit bulky? Or are you going to try to do it with your sewing machine so you can, so it's not super bulky at the seams? Pin just went flying. Let me know what you are doing. All right, I got to my pin and I'm going to lift up my foot and move over. I am doing that triple stitch. I just like the way it looks and the way it works. Over at the other corner, and I'm pivoting again. All right, so the rest of it I'm going to do with my serger, just because I like to have that finished edge right there, and it takes less time. One thing I've learned is that if I'm using interfacing on one side and not the other, I want to sew with the interfacing face up, because the interfacing doesn't move as much as my fabric. And if I have the fabric face up, my serger tends to push it down and start moving it, and then I get a gap. So I want to make sure, so that's why I changed it and moved it over to have it in the interfacing face up. All right, now we can trim those little corners so it will be a nice, now don't cut your thread. You do not want to cut your thread when you're sewed up, because then it will come apart. And now we turn it right side out and we give it a good steam. It's looking so good. I'm excited. Are you excited? Look at that. That's gonna look super good once it's all finished. How cute. All right, so once you give that once you give that a good steam, we're going to sew your side seams. So place them right sides together at the side seams, pin and sew. As I was steaming my jacket, I realized that we are almost done. Look at that. That's looking so good. So good. I am so excited about it. It's looking so good. It's looking so good. So good. So the next thing we're going to do, which is almost the last thing, is work on our sleeves. So you can mark your sleeve front, middle, and back, however you want to mark it. What I like to do is when I'm actually cutting my fabric, I like to, when I place my pattern, there is little notches on your pattern that has like 2 for back, 1 in the center, and 1 in the front. And so when I go cut my fabric, I do the little notches on my actual fabric. I will eat these up when I sew, but they're just there to remind me where they are. See, like the 2 notches is the back, the middle piece, the front piece. So that's how I keep track. But if you don't want to do that, you can put clips on there, or however you want to mark it to remember which one's your front and your back, because it makes a difference. Now we're gonna place them. We're gonna place them. We're gonna place them right sides together, or face them right sides together. You can either place them or face them, but you can place them because I don't even know what that is. And we're going to sew those sides together. We're going to inset this sleeve, and what that means is, you know, some patterns you will put the sleeve on before you sew the side seams, but some of these type of patterns, the woven patterns, we sew the side seams and then we sew our sleeves together, and then we actually fit our sleeve into the arm side and sew it on, and that's what we're doing for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew these right sides together at that side seam. Then we're gonna come back and fit them in, sew them up, hem, top stitch, buttons, done. So now we're going to grab our sleeve and turn it right side out. And this is where marking those those pieces, whatever they're called, comes in handy because we're gonna go right into, here's my arm side right here. We're gonna go right into my arm side and see, this is my front area. So you wanna make sure that this is my back, so this is not the sleeve for, oh yeah, it is. Because the seam is to the seam, the shoulder is where that mark is, the front, the back. So I'm gonna fit that in there and I'm gonna match them up, right sides together, all the way around. And then I'm gonna sew it on. And I'm gonna do the same for both sleeves. Alrighty, now all I have left to do is to top stitch and hem. Look at how adorable this looks. I am super excited to try this on and show you all. I think it's going to be super cute. I can't wait. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hem my sleeve. So I'm tucking that in and hemming. I'm gonna do for both, and then for the bottom I'm going to go, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start top stitching all the way around. So we already top stitched the top of our collar, but you can top stitch right here on like where the collar meets the shirt, and then go all the way down top stitching the front. And as I'm going down to top stitch the front, I'm also going to hem. So I'm gonna fold that hem up so that way it's like a continuous all the way around. I'm gonna continue all the way around to top stitch in hem slash hem that whole bottom part. Then you would be adding buttons, or you know, if you don't want to add buttons, you don't have to add buttons. That's all your preference. And I would say try it on and then decide where you want your buttons slash buttonholes to be, and go from there. That's what I like to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and then try it on for you all, because you all, I know, want to see what it looks like. I am so excited. I really am so excited. I love having like a blazer that you can just throw on and dress something up. Like if you're, you know, going about your business on the day and then you want to go on a date, or you have a meeting or something like that, and you just want to throw a blazer on that it's a little bit dressier than just a cardigan, but it's nice and soft because it's made with wovens. But I mean, it's made with knit. It's also like easy to wear because honestly, a lot of knits, which I love, especially the sturdy kind, are very good at not getting wrinkled. So like, you don't have to worry so much about having to iron it or anything like that. It's just perfect. So let me go ahead and finish that top stitching and hemming all the way around, and then I'll come back and show you my final result. I am super excited. And actually, tell me the truth, that wasn't as hard as you thought it was gonna be, was it? You thought it was gonna be like so complicated that you were not gonna be able to do it, but now you see it and you're like, I think I can do that. I know you can. So get to it, go grab your pattern if you don't have it, and sew it up. Super cute. Another thing I'm going to do while I'm at it, I know I already closed out, but I'm telling you, I'm going to grab right here where the collar is, see how it sticks up a little bit? I'm gonna fold it right over that seam line right here of my shoulder, and I'm gonna tack it down. So with like a stitch right on the seam, right on that ditch right there, so that it keeps it down, so that my facing doesn't wanna come up at my shoulders. It'll just keep that down, and it'll help to not let it come up at all. You can also, if you wanted to do this, you could hand stitch it to the bottom, to your bodice, with like really light stitch so that you can't see it on the outside, but it's just stitched down if you wanted to do that. I don't usually like to do that. I think it's enough with the neck, but if that's bothering you, if it's something like, oh, I don't want to stick up or anything, you could do that. But that's it. Let me finish it. All right, friends, we are finished. How adorable did this turn out? I love it. I think it looks super cute. I'm still not sure if I want to go ahead and add a button. I think I will because it looks super cute closed up as well. I'm gonna pair it with some, I'm going to make myself some new paper bag pants to match it. I made some paper bag pants that look really good. They're just not the right color to match. If you have not checked out our tutorial on how to get the perfect fit for the paper bag pants, you really need to check that out because it makes a huge difference and it looks so good. They look so good paired together. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please comment, like, share, subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions, and check out our Facebook group where we have a full album of showing what our testers did with the blazer, so you can get inspiration and different ideas of what to pair it with and stuff like that. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!